All right. Good evening, family. I'm sorry. This is an impromptu video, so excuse the light and excuse the way I look. But y'all already know how I do it. It's been a minute since I posted. I told y'all I'm gonna get back on schedule. I really am this time, I promise. It's just always something that's coming up. Y'all know how just life be lifing, right? But we're moving into the spooky season. So I thought that this would be a good time to start to explore darkness. And because for those of you that are spiritually inclined, and whether you know what's going on with you or not, because for the longest I didn't, but for those of you guys that can feel energies, that can sense vibrations, right, you will start to know that in these darker, first of all, it gets dark earlier and it stays dark later, right? um and this is just that time, the fall, the winter, right? But you'll also notice that the atmosphere, the energy gets kind of heavy right around this time. There's a lot of people that's doing, there's a lot of witches and, warlocks and spiritual people that are doing a lot of spiritual work, right? Um, which, I'm for it. People have their own opinions about that. I'm for it. Hey, I got nothing against the witches and the warlocks and people in the magicians and the cultists, of course, right? But what I want to say about all that is there is just an overall atmosphere of heaviness and darkness. Now, the darkness is not always bad. I always say this: as above, so below, as within, so without. And for those of you guys who are familiar with the biblical stories, as well as other mythologies, right? You know that the Christian God, the Christian deity, Yahweh, whatever, in the beginning, what did he say? The world was it was void, right? It was chaos. It was nothing. And the Spirit of God, hovered over the face of the deep, right? And then he spoke. Now, what was the first thing that he did when he spoke? He said, let there be light. Now, within your own life, in your own situation, right? When it's dark in your room, say physically dark, you can't see nothing. It might put you into a panic. You can't see where you're going. You have to feel your way through. And you're like, if I can just get to that light, I can see and everything will be all good. But you get to that light and you flip that switch and a light bulb literally goes off. But now you're looking around you. Sometimes you can be overwhelmed by what you see. Your room's cluttered. There's stuff in your closet, right? There's people, right? There's baggage. There's things going on around you that you wasn't able to see. But now you're overwhelmed. A lot of ways our life follows the same path. And for those of you guys who believe in the reincarnation process and the soul's journey, evolutionary journey, as I do, you will know and realize that we know we have contracts before we come to this earth, and we know exactly what we're going to do and exactly why we're going to do it. Now, I'm going to be transparent here. Speaking about my own darkness, oftentimes, especially when you're a spiritualist and you are awakening, you're going to go through several self-initiations. Whether they're going to be you voluntarily going through these initiations or whether they're going to be involuntarily. You have no choice. And my darkness, right, is I'm a people pleaser. I always wanted to please everybody, make everybody happy, show up as perfect as I possibly can be. Now, half of that is because I like to believe I genuinely have a good spirit to love people and, and really value people and things like that. And I connect with people in a very deep, profound way. I'm a Scorpio. I naturally do that, right? I'm naturally filled with those deep emotions, right? For life, for people. But on the flip side of that, a more selfish reason, which isn't intentional, but it was a way to try to protect myself, right? Because I feel safe when I don't have conflict, when people aren't upset with me or feeling a certain type of way or judging me a certain type of way, right? It bothers me to the core when I feel judged, when I feel like there's conflict. And the irony to this is most of my obstacles that I faced in life, regardless of how hard I try to deviate from this and avoid this and be as nice as I possibly can, right? I've always been in a situation to where I'm targeted. People are, and it don't be, and when I say people, I'm not talking about just one person here or there. I'm talking about groups of people and establishments. I've had this at work. I've had this where I live in my apartments. I've had this during certain places that I've been at, during certain establishments that I had to go through and go to, right? There's different places I had to go. I'm not getting into detail, but there's certain places that I had to go. There's certain establishments as part of my journey that I had to go through. And I had to deal with this where I was being discriminated against. And if I didn't have the spirit of discernment and the mindset and the strong mindset I have, and the thinking mechanism to know that I'm not tripping, it would have broke me. It would have made me feel like I'm the bad guy, like I'm crazy, like something's wrong with me. But you guys got to realize that this is a spiritual battle we're fighting. So the question is, and this isn't going to have an answer tonight. You know, I'm not going to give you the answer, but I want you guys to start thinking. As you're navigating your darkness, right? How can you get to the other side, right? Not just flipping the switch and seeing the clutter that's going on, but actually moving through that clutter and triumphing, right? Getting on the other side with full victory. Because oftentimes the very thing that you fear, right? This is spooky season, so it's all about the scary, woo, spooky. The very thing that you fear, and I'm not talking about the little monsters and the things that go bump in the night. Oftentimes the biggest monster is the internal fears that you have, the internal traumas that you have. And oftentimes your growth, your biggest growth is going to come by way of facing that fear head on. And for some of us, we are unfortunate or fortunate, whichever way you want to look at it, enough to where we oftentimes don't really have that choice on the physical realm. We're kind of thrown into it, right? And we got to figure out how to navigate ourselves out of it, right? Some of us is thrown into it. Some of us cannot choose to walk into that darkness, if that makes sense. Some of us walk into it. No matter what direction we go, we're walking into it, right? So I want you guys to start thinking about darkness, right? Because darkness can be a place where you get lost in the infinite void, or it can be a place where you emerge a new being, because chaos is infinite, limitless potential. Now, there is something that comes before chaos, and we're going to actually talk about that. I want to make a video. It's going to call What Came Before Chaos, because there is something that comes before chaos. But as we know it on this plane of duality, see, mankind, the heart of men, has two extremes and everything in the middle. They can go to their most vile, animalistic, primal, primordial, chaotic nature. And that's where you get all the evil and the monstrosities and the crazy things that you can't fathom, right? The hurting children and the murder and the sadistic thoughts and ideologies, right? And then it can go on the other extreme. Bliss, living, walking in your purpose, passing away at an old age after leaving a name for yourself and a legacy, right? Because that happened. Yeah, have some bumps in the road. Ultimately, you make it, right? So you can go either way. But the darkness is one thing that we cannot escape. So how are you going to navigate your darkness?